What's up, y'all? It's your girl Malika, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of From the Block Podcast. I mean, wow, happy Black History Month. This is a pretty epic month. So, we've all heard the phrase before, act better so people will respect you. Why are you dressing like that? Please have some respect for yourself. People have different opinions on how we should act, and in my personal opinion, this all stems from one place, respectability politics. Please give it up for a very special guest, Dr. Bennett, aka Dr. B.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so listen, sometimes the comments can act a little funny. So can you please list your credentials? Because the people need to know.
Okay, hi, everyone. So, like I said, I am Dr. Masanya Bennett. Let's see, I have a bachelor's in Africana Studies from UNC Charlotte, Niner Nation. A master's in Latin American Studies, also from UNC Charlotte, and a master's in African and African Diaspora Studies from Florida International University, and a PhD in Global and Social Cultural Studies with a focus in anthropology, also from FIU.
And a business owner.
Yes, I also have, I'm the executive executive director and founder of Parallel Cultures. It is a nonprofit geared towards cultural awareness, inspiring, illuminate, enrich, inspiring the youth, the Black youth.
To sum everything up, we know what we're talking about. So, Dr. V, how do you define respectability politics?
Okay, so you can go a lot of ways, and there are a lot of examples. I guess we'll get into it. Okay, but I would define in its most fundamental sense, I would say respectability politics stems from Black folks globally quest for respect and for legitimacy and for recognition after being misrecognized through systems of colonialism, neo-colonialism, imperialism, systemic racism, transatlantic slave trade, oppression.
Amen to that. So, I agree with this statement, but this is just an opinion. So, do you agree or disagree that there is a connection between respectability politics and the Black bourgeoisie?
Oh, hell yeah. But wait, I didn't say this. So this is an important thing to say. So often in our quest for recognition and for respect, we end up reifying the same structures that oppress us and the same hegemonic structures and dominant structures.
But where do you think that all stems from?
What?
Just,
white supremacy.
I knew you were going to say that.
It all stems from white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism.
So, do you think that the Black bourgeoisie is detrimental to the success of Black liberation?
No.
Why?
I think that the Black bourgeoisie is necessary. There are always two sides, and there are always multiple sides and things that are needed, right? So I'm part of the Black bourgeoisie. You know, you're Black middle class. That's the Black bourgeoisie. You know, you're part of the Black bourgeoisie. These folks in here running this business are part of a Black bourgeoisie.
Now, I'm glad that you kind of clarified that, because my just initial understanding, I don't know if I've watched too many Dr. Umar videos, but my initial understanding of the Black bourgeoisie were those that, yes, you are part of the middle class, but also it's a certain ideology that you carry. Like you can be a part of the middle class, but your mindset, that's what sets you apart. So you see, folks are being oppressed. You see these particular things are going on, right, in the diaspora, but you're aware of it, but you're willingly turning a blind eye because it's I don't got nothing to do with me, or that's your cousins over there acting out.
Okay, so there are different ways. So we can take it back. So how deep you want to go?
Let's talk.
Okay, because we could take it back to the core, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Du Bois, or we'll just start with Du Bois and Booker T. Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Du Bois. He says Du Bois has this thing of the talented 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the talented 10th, they will lead us, they will lead the masses of Black folks, right, into liberation. And we'll do this through intellectual and artistic capability, right? But, only respectable things. So Du Bois at the time, he saw jazz and he thought jazz was like vulgar.
Yes,
right?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Then on the other end, you have Washington. Now, everybody always pits these two together, right? But they're still saying the same thing. Same it's in different ways in terms of respectability, right? So Washington is like, no, y'all need to learn trade, be fiscally responsible, work yourself up, right? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, focus on economic sustainability that you'll get through trade and thrift, right? But you still need to be morally respectful, right? And be pious, so be proper young Black men and women. And on one side is what happens is, and this another big time scholar, E. Franklin Frazier, sociologist, Black sociologist, he says, well, what everybody ultimately is saying is y'all are trying to be super Americans, if we talk about Black Americans in the United States, right? And they end up mimicking white folks, right?
Yeah.
And this is the part of this respectability, okay? And then you get, even with NAACP, sorry, but back in the day, it was a lot of respectability, and that gets wrapped up in colorism and what is deemed acceptable
Not
and
to cut you off,
non-threatening.
but don't you think that same ideology kind of still comes into play in present day? Okay.
Yeah. So, and what I mean by, and so I think it's a lot more nuanced. I just think it's nuanced, right? So I could say that I'm part of Black bourgeoisie, but I'm down for the people, right? But that don't mean that I have my moments of respectability, also.
Like what? Like what?
Well, I saw you prepared me for one of the questions about Black women.
Yeah. Okay.
And we talking sexy red. I'm sorry, but my respectability politics is going to come into play.
But with someone like Sexy Red, right? Okay, so because I know for a fact that this, how blues music, especially back in the day, like in the 30s and 40s, how it was a sign of, it was a creative outlet for Black women to show agency, to show creative expression. So we have singers like the late Ma Rainey, and just like a plethora of other singers where they were speaking against the prohibition laws. They were openly explicit about their sexuality and things of that nature. So what's the main difference between a Sexy Red and someone like
like Lil' Kim?
Not even Little Kim. I mean, well, yeah, we could also say that as well.
Yeah.
But also like comparing Sexy Red to like, the previous singers before her that were explicit and yeah, for the time.
Well, I mean, I'll just say, because a lot of people they'll do comparison like, oh, the people, in my age range, generation, we were listening to Lil' Kim. Yeah, hardcore was a revolutionary album, okay? But Lil' Kim had skill, okay? Like, I don't want dick tonight, eat my pussy right. It's very explicit. And, my mother was like, oh my God. I knew all the words to that song at like 12. And, but Lil' Kim told stories and she had skills. I don't think that Sexy Red has that much talent, skill in terms of rapping.
But don't you think like the Sexy Reds, the Sukianas, the like there's women that are just very comfortable in their sexuality, they're really explicit. Don't you think though that they all fall in the same category of just entertainers, Black entertainers who are black women entertainers who defy, society standards of, which goes back to the respectability politics of of how a woman should carry themselves. Like, just like rap skills aside, just focusing strictly on just the theme.
Yeah, I low key like Sukiyama. I'm not gonna lie. There's something entertaining about her.
Really?
She,
so
I know. See, that's what I'm saying. Is it's
okay.
but I don't always agree with what Sukiyama does. And okay, so this is my thing. Because okay, let me ask you then: where do you draw the line between saying, okay, I'm stepping out and I'm not gonna be in this, strict adhere to these stipulations of what Black society and Black bourgeoisie and respectability and all this tells me I'm gonna be myself and step out. At what crosses the line though between like being blackface or being a minstrel character or coonery?
That's a very interesting question. I feel as if, oh Lord, Dr. B.
Because and I'm not saying that we should do stuff for, okay, I'm gonna give you another example of some Tiffany Haddish. I do not like her. And because I feel like she does certain things specifically to cater to white audiences. Like, it was a few years, not even these latest stunts that she's doing, but like a few years when she was really blowing up and she was like on the red carpet with a Ziploc bag and fried chicken.
Yeah.
Why?
So I guess to answer your previous question, as in where do you draw that line between generally just being yourself and versus, putting on like a stereotypical character, I feel like it all boils down to Antics. But I say that in a more nuanced stance, as in I feel like it's pretty easy to tell someone who is generally just themselves. Like, for example, like Sexy Red, like when she goes on the red carpet with like, a stack of money and she like, free my baby, like that's her actual life. Like this, she's not cosplaying versus someone like another entertainer, right? Where you'll see them, right, overly being loud, just like overly doing it. So I think it generally boils down to antics and just like how they act, really. Yeah.
I mean, I also think that there's another thing in here of exploitation that's in the background, right? And
to an extent,
yeah, and I don't want to get on my hotel stuff.
No,
know
please
what I'm saying?
do.
Well, because you know how people are like Sexy Red and these people are like industry plants.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, think about Zeus, the network.
Now
Zeus.
that one I agree with you. That one I definitely agree with
Zeus,
you. They're being
VH1.
exploited.
I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, I used to watch Love and Hip Hop, right? I
still watch it.
every Monday, I was on it, okay. But then now it's just like, first of all, some of them like, y'all too old. But the other thing is that look how they're exploiting Black people, and like Zeus is terrible. It's the baddies, West. It's just a fight. Like, that's not how Black women act. And so I guess. So then this is the thing with respectability. Like, it's you can have some respect. Too.
Dr. B. Oh Lord.
But no, I'm against other aspects of respectability politics. So you remember this was like after George Floyd, because we've talked a lot about Black women, but right after George Floyd, and then they had like there were all these hashtags like change the narrative. I don't know if you remember, one was called like change the narrative or something.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it was the Black men who were dressed up in suits to say, oh, and I was like, well, you think because you dress in the suit that the police. That you no longer a target. The police don't care about your suit, and you think by saying you're still, this is what I'm saying, reifying the other structures and ideologies, right? Because by you being dressed in a suit and saying, look, respect me, I'm respectable because I wear a suit, I'm not like them, I'm not like these other Black folks. This is the other ploy, right, of how this works.
So then on the flip side, then what's your response to someone that's like, well, I should be able to do what I want? Because you remember like when Miley Cyrus and like other white celebrities, they'll have their like edgy urban era.
Oh,
So they'll cosplay and go into, Black culture, and everyone praises it, versus, actual Black women that, actually live
mm-hmm.
this life day to day, they get like scrutinized for it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's your response to that then?
Well, that's effed up. Also, I mean, that's appropriation. I mean, so don't get me wrong. I'm saying that Black women, they are, without a doubt, more scrutinized than anybody else, and they've also been over sexualized and objectified more than anyone else, and they've been stolen from more than anybody else, also, and exploited more than anybody else. I mean, that's white supremacy again, that Miley Cyrus can do. Then we say, oh, and then a Black woman does it, and
Yeah. So I guess mainly like your main focal point is that yes, there is a problematic side to respectability politics, but there are also some, there's a problematic side, but then there's a reasonable side to respectability politics. Because you remember when Monique, when she was getting dragged on the internet, because she said that Black women, you should carry yourself a certain way. You shouldn't go out with bonnets.
This is the woman who calls her husband daddy.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. Because I seen a lot of older women agree with her. But like more like the younger generation, they were like calling her out because they're like, what does that have to do with my self-respect if I choose to wrap my hair up? And
yeah, no, I agree with that. And what I'm saying is, when it comes down respectability, because it's politics, right? Because it's political.
Yeah.
And ultimately it serves to divide Black people internally, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I mean Black Americans, but also divide Black Americans from, Caribbean folks, right? From West Indians, from Africans, all this is not just within this Black American culture, right? It's every Black culture, because of our position in society globally, right? We all have our forms of respectability, and then we use that also to like tear each other down and say, oh, don't hang with the Black Americans because da-da-da-da-da. So, and don't hang with the Africans because da-da-da-da, and they food stink, and all this stuff,
Yeah.
That's the ultimate thing of respectability, right? And at the end of the day, me going out in the bonnet doesn't do anything to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, me going out in the bonnet, because you don't want white folks to think this about me. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? What white folks think. You know what I'm saying? And somebody pay me. I got a job. But yeah.
No, yeah. So with that, right? I actually did not send this question to you. I just came up with this. So this is something that I kind of debate with my family. So I'll text it to you, but I forgot the book that I was reading. It was for class. But I saw this TikTok, and this professor was saying that a lot of African Americans don't realize that they are in fact bilingual. And she was speaking in terms of, how, sometimes we may speak in Ebonics, and that is considered, not proper, and how we go by the Anglo-Saxon European, language, and how just because that is the set language that's considered proper, that doesn't mean that, that's it shouldn't be like the ultimate standard. So do you agree with that? Or do you think that's a stretch?
What, that I don't have to talk? You see how I talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, and my mom always said, I didn't raise you to speak that improper grammar.
Yeah, my parents were like that
grammar,
too.
right? And ain't doing this, and you ain't. And I said, I be doing this,
Yeah.
And even when I'm teaching class, this is how I talk. And I know people, because I'm sure people hear my Southern accent. I know people that have taken Black folks that have taken speech classes, to get rid of their accent. I know people that have faked an accent, and I'll be like, nigga, where you get that accent from?
Yeah.
Like, you don't talk like that. You grew up on a dirt road.
Yeah.
You know, but this is me, you know, and this is my lineage, this is my culture, and so this is also part of my resistance, right? Like I'm going to talk how I talk. I'm going to be who I am, you know.
I like how you said that. So code switching is another form of resistance to, you know, submitting yourselves to, you know, the patriarchal white supremacy society that we all live in. I like that, Dr. B. So do you agree though with the with that one professor said on TikTok that a lot of African Americans are unaware that they are in fact bilingual because Ebonics is another language, even though that the like higher ups don't consider it another language?
Yeah, I would say it's Black English. I mean, I call it Black English because it shifts, right?
Yeah.
You know, down in New Orleans, they talking like this, baby. You know, everybody got their own thing. You see how I just switched my accent.
Yeah.
But so, Black English can also shift, right? But yeah, and Black English, you know, words like okay, words like tote, those words come from Africa. You know, like there would be no freaking culture in this country if it weren't for Black folks. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Period. Okay.
Absolutely.
Music, language.
No, absolutely. So, do you think respectability politics apply to other like races and cultures as well, or do you think it's just really heavily prominent in Black culture?
I think it's a brand that stems from Black people's position in society. It's a particular brand of this, right? And again, this quest for recognition and recognition and legitimacy. That is a particular aspect of the global Black experience of the diaspora. And it is political, again, because it is sort of attempting to be a political tool, right? To get recognition, to get rights, right? Even though it ends up, you know, only causing further division, right? Which is, you know,
absolutely
what the structure does.
I saw the criticism that Fannie, is it Fannie?
Fannie,
Fannie Willis was facing, because when I watched her in court, I thought that she was doing amazing, but I saw a lot of people, you know, criticizing her for, you know, for her dialect, for her attitude. So then it just kind of made me think that, like, why do you think Black women are just criticized harder than white women in society?
Okay, well, two things. Okay. Well, because of history and white supremacy again.
Yes.
But wait, what was the other thing? Oh, but I want to say, because you asked me about other races, there is class distinction, you know.
Oh, yeah, classism is a real thing.
Conceptualizations of class that operate, you know, amongst white folks. You know, white folks will be they'll call each other white trash, you know, and trailer trash. They call each other those words, you know.
It's true.
But it's a thing of class. But see, white folks, even if I'm poor, a white person living in a trailer park, I still got white privilege. You see what I'm saying? Because white privilege isn't about class or money. It's about if somebody sees you, they don't feel threatened by you.
Absolutely.
Or they're going to let you get away with, you know.
So do you think Black privilege is a real thing? Because I do think Black privilege is a real thing. Because I know that was a whole movement that Charlemagne was pushing a couple years ago.
Okay. We got how long we got to talk? Okay, so I'm gonna say again, in terms of class, right? There's colorism, there is Black wealth, all of these things, and I think that there's a level of privilege that shifts, right? So, say for example, when I leave the country, you know, there is some level of, because everything is shifting, right? Our identity shift as we navigate different spaces, right? Um, so in certain spaces and places, I might have privilege, right? I'm light skinned. There are certain things that come, that not are going to be experienced by other folks or dark skinned women. So in one of those things, but it depends on how we are defining privilege in that sense, because I'm still a Black woman also,
Yeah.
and I say when I leave the country, then I become an American, right? Here in this country, I don't feel American. But when I leave the country and I have this blue passport, and that's passport bros, that's what they don't understand about themselves. Nobody just loves y'all because of whatever.
Right.
Nobody's just subservient to y'all or whatever. It's, you go out and then you shift, and then now you have another form of privilege that you wouldn't have in this country. So again, I think these things can shift, but the privilege, Black privilege or whatever, it is not what white privilege is.
So privilege is subjective based on race. Is that what you're basically saying?
I think there are different forms of privilege.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, privilege is defined in different ways. If I'm raised in a certain wealthy neighborhood and I grew up in a certain neighborhood, then I am privileged, right? In a sense. But I'm still Black also, So it's not the same as white privilege when, again, you could be poor and still have white privilege if you're white. Does that make sense?
No, you're that whole statement reminded me of that Jay-Z song, The Story of OJ. That I'm not Black, I'm OJ. It's like, yeah, okay.
I write about that in my shit, but yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. So I guess I'm trying to see how I can organize my thoughts real quick. So
oh, you had asked me about Fonnie though.
Oh yeah, what did I say about that?
About she was being why Black
yeah. So she was I was confused by the criticism based on how, which mainly was coming from Fox News and stuff. Which, they were criticizing her tone, her rhetoric, different things of that nature. And why is it, I feel like I already asked you this though, why is it that you think that Black women face harder scrutiny in either media or in the public spaces? And I know how. So with the scrutiny that Black women face in the media and in public places, why do you think society has this peculiar, I guess I don't want to say definition, but just this peculiar viewpoint of how a Black woman should act? And then once you give your response, I have a good follow up.
I mean, again, there's white supremacy and patriarchy, right? As Bell Hooks would say, white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, and just objectification. I mean, again, all oppression, slavery. I mean, imperialism, neocolonialism, exploitation, right? I've said exploitation a bunch of times, but
it's fact though. People need to know, because I feel like people, when they hear those terms, I guess because the heavy use of social media, I guess they try to downplay it as being a real thing. But I feel like the reason why, me personally, I just feel like history always repeats itself, and if we can learn from history, then I feel like it definitely explains why so many things go on in current day, and why we're not able to move past certain things. So, because I know we talked about this in class, when you were talking about Sarah Bartman and the objectification that she went through, with a story like that, do you think the more explicit and provocative women either in past or in present day, how do you think their story correlates to Sarah Bartman's story? because I see the comparison a lot on social media, and it's like a big discourse on if there's actually a connection and a correlation between the two, or are they basically just like putting her to shame?
Put in who?
Sarah to shame. Shame in a way of like, I went through all of this. Why are you acting like this?
Oh. So, I talk a lot. There's always something to remember. And this goes back even with Sexy Red, right? Agency, right? We talk about who has agency, who has power. And agency are those sort of subversive ways that we enact our power. You know what I'm saying? Those for those of us who are in, a part of oppressed and marginalized groups. So, I want to say about, to sort of wrap all this, to say, go back to what you said about, Black women in particular, because it's about control, and historically, Black women's bodies have been controlled. You go back to slavery, they're breeding, Black women, and, they're breeding slaves, they're also raping Black women and consuming. They're raping Black men, and I talk a lot about like consumption, right? So this is what we're getting into. Okay, consumption. And Bell Hooks again talks a lot about this, right? Consumption of multiple forms, right? Consumption of labor, of Black labor, consumption of Black bodies in terms of rape, right? Consumption. There was some cannibalism going on.
Absolutely,
yeah. One of the ways that they would rape Black women was they would forcibly suck the breast milk out of her. Men would. And, you think about with Black men, one of the primary forms of punishment is castration, which is homoerotic, right? And you think about the slave market, white men are going examining Black men's bodies, right? So it's all this sort of homoerotic consumption and sexual cannibalistic consumption and labor and exploitation, right? And so with Sarah Bartman, they, they're exploiting her, objectifying her, put her on display, even in death, they keep her body, at the Museo de Leon, right? Until parts of her body taxonomized, right? So it's out here on display. And she wasn't, they put Black folks in zoos and human zoos and all this too. And so she's sort of an example of this like sort of psychosexual cannibalistic consumption, right? Of white supremacy, right? And you think about it today and you draw that connection between like Sexy Red and you ask, well, does Sexy Red, does she have agency? This came up in class where they're like, well, the difference between, somebody like Nicki Minaj or Sarah Bartman and all this is that they have agency, right? And there's like, yeah, but to an extent, how much agency and how much is being sort of, mass produced for consumption, you know what I'm saying? And who's consuming it? Who's actually getting rich, I should say? Who's making the most money off of Sexy Red? Like, in 15 years, the Sexy Red still gonna be standing up there with that stack of cash?
Hopefully.
But this is the thing, that we have to ask ourselves this. And then how much do we feed into consumption? You think about this even with like BBLs and all that, right? Yeah, women have agency to do it. That's your body, your choice. You could do what you want to do. But then who does it become? Who is it actually for, ultimately, at the end of the day?
Ooh, that was deep.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So, like, agency, sexuality, but I think we have sort of been conditioned also, you talk about Black men and sexuality. Bell Hooks talks a lot about this. Like, what is healthy sexuality? What does healthy sexuality look like and displayed? How is it displayed? And I'm not saying and Black women have been sexualized, and to an extent that, and again, go back and say, well, Black women are way, they're sexualized, right? And white women are, this is again goes back to power, right? White women are seen as pure and virginal. But what this does is it white supremacists creates these ideologies to justify, one, the rape of Black women, and then justify the control of Black men also. You see what I'm saying? So it's all of this is within power dynamics, right? And white women then, going back to the plantation system, Black women oftentimes have low-key slightly more agency than these white women on the plantation, right? Just like, but if a white woman say go kill her, then or whatever, then they can. But white women have been powerless too. See, they confused too.
Yeah,
because they've been powerless, but then they go and they side with the white patriarchy, right? Oftentimes to their own detriment, if you will.
No, yeah, absolutely. So I guess everything at the end of the day really just comes down to who actually has agency. Like when we see these people and we feel like they're really liberated in being themselves, I guess an important question to ask is at the end of the day, who actually has agency, who is in control.
And even with respectability politics, I mean, yeah, there's division there, but there has been agency, and Black bourgeoisie has also been a source of agency and resistance and power. All of these things are always at play. It's never one thing to blame.
So when looking at these certain ideologies, it's always important to look at the pros, but don't focus too much on the cons, or just
no. You gotta look at all of it. Okay, so and then let me say this, like the hood, right? There's agency and there's power and resistance in the hood.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You look, there's a whole aesthetic. You talk about appropriation. There's a whole freaking aesthetic that this country, this larger popular culture has taken. Look, everybody got nails now. Everybody want to wear gold jewelry. Everybody, like you said, everybody got braids, and everybody's trapping to dying now.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's agency in different forms, and we have to focus on how we can use those things and tools for agency and for resistance and collective power, as opposed to nitpicking internally, intra-racially between Black folks. Despite our different cultures and ethnicities that fall under Blackness, we spend too much time talking about this and this and that when we could be talking about some other stuff, important stuff, liberation.
Absolutely.
Sustainability.
Amen to that. Dr. V, please can you come back on this show, because there's so much more that I just want to discuss.
I know. I'm sorry. Was I talking too long?
No. You were perfect. Okay. You were amazing. So at the end of the day, to wrap things up, all of our problems are connected to white supremacy.
That's right.
So yeah.
Stick it to the man.
Amen to that. So you can follow Dr. V on all social media platforms at...
Don't y'all follow me. Y'all can find some of me. Oh, you can look at right now I'm on Twitter. The Black Academic Clairvoyant. Y'all can follow me there because I be politically correct.
Do you want to shout your class out? So
yes,
enrollments in the fall semester.
Black Studies Matters. Come to KSU. Right now I'm teaching Black and minority entrepreneurship and issues in African diaspora with the assistance of Malika. So y'all come take some Black Studies courses because we need it. Don't let nobody tell you different. We're under attack. Knowledge is under attack. Truth is under attack. Seek it. Seek the real truth. Only you can do it on your own.
Amen to that. So make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at FromTheBlockPodcast. Happy Black History Month.